I'm here to speak to you today about path of self-discovery and how it is a constant contemplative process that we all go through. It's never ending, it's never done, and it defines who we ultimately become. And so, most of us believe that good grades and academic performance in class leads to a path of a successful and fulfilling career. And my contention today is that it is quite the opposite. My contention is that it is not good grades that leads to a career and life of fulfillment and happiness, but it is in fact the struggle that we all go through to find our inner passion, our inner interests that lead to a part of self-discovery and ultimate happiness. And so, our conversation today my talk today will be mostly focused on this, and I will illustrate it through speaking about how my personal struggle has led to founding a technology startup in the e-commerce space that we are sort of constantly building and learning from. And so, my siblings and I all went to Cathedral. I was one of those all-rounders, but weak academically. When exam papers were returned, I got my paper back last. I got my paper back last because I was at the bottom of the class. And the thing is, I was trying really hard, right? I would stare at my textbooks all evening long. I never went out to play. And it really began to weigh in on me that no matter how hard I worked, I could never perform. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that, all work and no play, or, you've got to balance things in life. But the truth is, look, I was really good at squash. I was, in the nationals. I played really good table tennis, and I performed really well in piano. So that was not the case for me, right? My very own friends were all getting distinction without much difficulty. My very own brother, who grew up in the same household, shared a room with me, and shared the same parents, got yelled at when he didn't get a distinction. I got a pat on my back when I got pass plus. And so this whole exercise, year after year, really began to weigh in on me, and I started to develop an inferiority complex. That sort of kept going, and over time, I wanted to be different. And so I started to do really crazy things because I wanted to prove to people and to myself most of all that I was different. Until I got to 9th grade. Right, so in those days, our terms began in June, and I remember sitting in class on one of those days. It was pretty warm and muggy. The monsoons hadn't hit us yet. It was terribly humid like it is now. And our chemistry teacher was Dr. Khan. Now, I had heard scary stories about Dr. Khan because she was one of those teachers that everyone knew about. And the worst thing was that just 2 to 3 months back, she had pulled me up for misbehaving. She had made me call my father to school. She had made me write my old remark, and she made me explain to him what I did in front of her. So not the best sort of beginning for our relationship. So I sat crouched up in class in a corner, hoping she wouldn't see me. But then she did. And she said, "Rahul, you are probably cursing your lucky stars, but I am going to make you love chemistry." Until today, I have no idea what she meant. But I was really afraid. I was so afraid that I worked even harder, right? That's the only thing I knew how to do. And the time came to take our first quiz, and I did really well. Right now, flukes happen, and perhaps this was one of those. I was still really afraid, and so I kept going, and and then the comprehensive exams showed up, and I topped the class, right? And I have no idea how that happened, but it did. And, success in our careers, whenever it happens, can be pretty infectious. I did well in chemistry. And then I started to do really well in physics and math, and all of a sudden I went from being this guy at the bottom of the class to being this whiz kid. I had found my love for the sciences. And so, looking back, I think I was very fortunate. I was fortunate because I was in India where our curriculums are skewed towards the sciences. I was fortunate that in ninth grade, I managed to discover something that I truly loved. And so that was one of those roads that I went down in life, and you never know when paths cross, but they did at an opportune moment. Now, like most parents, my father believed that you needed to be a doctor, lawyer, and engineer. My brother performed really well. He went to the US, and in my father's mind, he had lost him to the world of liberal arts. And so he wanted to take no chances with this second son of his. And so the day my ICSE exams ended, he sent me across to his business in New Bombay. And I watched those machines moan and groan day after day, and I loved it. And now I was in 10th grade, and I was like, wow, I know I love the sciences, and I also know that this is what I want to do in my life, right? And so I applied to college. I went to study engineering. Every class I picked, every internship I decided to do, even those full-time jobs that I selected at the end of that period were all geared towards coming back and playing a role at the helm of that business. But 7 years later, this was a decade after liberalization in India, the whole world had changed. Imports into the country became easier. Chinese manufacturers were decades ahead of us just because they had an upper hand. And the business struggled. And I tried, and the business failed. And I failed. And it was extremely hard to deal with because I had dedicated my entire life towards doing this. This was that dream that I had worked towards, and it all came crashing down on me like a ton of bricks. And when that happened to me in my first stage, that first woman in my life, Dr. Khan, sort of got me on the right path. And in the second phase, this young lady from Bangalore that I had taken a fond liking to, helped me course correct. And so she was applying for her MBA and taking her GMAT. So I thought, what better way to spend more time with her? Like you can't be wrong by taking your GMAT and trying to go do an MBA. Everyone does it. And so I did that, and I applied to business school, and I didn't get in anywhere, right? I had no choice, right? I didn't have much of a career, and so I applied again. I got a lot of help from everyone I possibly could. I really tried hard, and I just gave it my best shot. And then many, many months later, at 10:30 at night, when it was noon on the East Coast of America, I got a call from Steve Nelson. He's like, Rahul, this is Steve from Harvard Business School. How are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing fine, Steve. It's 10:30 at night, and everyone around me is asleep, but I'm doing all right. He's like, well, have you checked your email? And I said, well, this is India, and my Wi-Fi is down half the time, so no, I'm not able to log in. And so he's like, well, it's good news. You're in. And just like that, I had gotten into Harvard Business School. And so, you never know where the road of life leads down. In my case, I had given my everything to the family business with single-minded focus. I went to work every single day because that's what I wanted to do. And it is the things that I learned in that journey. It is the things that I wrote on those essays that really inspired the admissions committee at Harvard, and they gave me this second lease of life. And so I went to business school, and academically I learned so much. I soaked in everything I could. I burnt the candle at both ends. And when I graduated, I decided not to take a career on that would just be the most financially rewarding. I decided to follow my heart and join a startup with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Right? People thought I was crazy. But I did it and joined a company called diapers.com, I was part of the leadership team there. We became the biggest online business for kids in America. And then Amazon bought the company for $500 million. And so I started to think about what to do next. And this light bulb went off in my head. We have the most number of children born in India, but we don't have a whole lot of options to shop, even though we have all the demand in the country. And so I asked my former boss, and I was like, Lisa, let's go do this. This market is really big, and I think it's going to be fantastic, right? Everything we've learned here at Diapers is going to come to great use. And so that's what I did, and over the course of 90 days, we spoke to friends and family and investors we knew and investors they knew, and in 90 days, we raised over 10 crores to go start what became Hopscotch. And that was year one. I literally packed my bags in a week. I moved back to India. My wife was still in New York, and I got started. And the interesting thing is that year one, everything looked so great and so rosy. And the very next year, the financial markets were in turmoil. It was really challenging. My co-founder, Lisa, decided she didn't want to continue. And so here I was at the helm of the business, having to sort of navigate a startup, something I had never, ever done before in my life, right? You're never trained to do these things in startups, after all. And so we managed to keep going and keep focusing, and I managed to sort of really navigate this team. And a year later, the co-founder of Facebook saw what we were doing, was tremendously impressed, and he decided to fund us in what has now become over 100 crores of financing. And so, look, I think I could stand here and tell you that, wow, I'm all set and things are done. But the truth is my struggle continues, right? I work over 100 hours a week. I work 7 days a week, non-stop. I do it because I love doing it. I do it for the passion. I do it because I am driven. And yet I am struggling to find that balance between spending time with my teams at work and more importantly, with my family at home. And when I was in my first year of college, my calculus professor said to me, he was like, class, what you guys need to do is go out into the world and find what you want. And once you find what you want, then go chase it with a vengeance, right? And so, all of you over here in this classroom have extremely bright career options ahead. I know it sounds stressful. I know it may sound easier speaking today from where I am, but the reality is that the path to self-discovery is a never-ending contemplative process. Some of us can find it in 9th grade in chemistry class. Many of us spend all our lives looking, but it's a never-ending process. And so, as all of you sort of go out into this world, what I would encourage each of you to do is, take a step back and think about it. The ingredients of success are in every one of us, but only you can personally define how you will align those ingredients of success and make your life one of tremendous fulfillment and meaning. So all the best, good luck, and Godspeed.